In the world of electric vehicle charging points, there are so many options out there. How do you know what's good and what's a pile of rubbish? And among the good ones, how do you know which product might be best for you? Well, that's what we're going to discuss in today's video. So hit a like, subscribe, and let's get into it. Now, whether you're an installer looking to add a new product to your lineup, or you're a customer who's bought an EV or got an EV and looking to get an electric vehicle charging point installed, there is so much confusion out there and it can be really hard to make a choice. So in today's video, I'm going to give you my top 5 picks for electric vehicle charging points, ones that I have installed personally myself and that we as a company install on a daily basis. And I'm going to show you all the good, the bad, the ugly about each product so that you can decide which one might be the best choice for you. And at the end of this video, I'm going to reveal my #1 pick that I think is going to be best for most people. So let's get into it. At Artisan Electrics, we install lots of different EV charging points. I've been doing it for years now. In fact, you can see a multitude of EV charger installations all across our YouTube channel, starting from me back in the day when I was a one-man band installing my first ever EV charger on this channel. And things have come a long way since then. The technology in terms of EVs has improved massively, but also the technology when it comes to the charging points has improved a lot. And the regulations have changed a lot along the way. So out there you'll have a very basic charging points up all the way to very sophisticated charging points, and it can be difficult to know which one fits your needs the most. We have installed lots of different brands, and some of them we've added to our top 5 lineup. Others we have quickly decided after fitting 1 or 2 that they will not be a product that we're recommending. So I hope that this information and the years of experience that we've got in this market will help you as a customer, or indeed as an installer, to decide what are the best products for you to get your hands on. So the first of the 5, and we're going in alphabetical order, is Anderson. Now, Anderson EV make 2 products now. They did just make 1 product, the Anderson A2, but they've just launched the Anderson A3. And I'll mostly be talking about the A2 in this video, but the A3 is a product that I'm looking to get my hands on soon and maybe do an installation video for. Anderson is an interesting story because they were an EV startup. In fact, one of the first in-person training sessions that I ever did for EV chargers was in the centre of London at the Anderson HQ, as it was back in the day. It was started by a small team, a British-based team, and they grew the product and developed the product all here in the UK. In terms of the way the product looks, it is an absolute corker, and that hasn't changed. However, Anderson went through some rocky times. They went into administration, then they got bought out by another bigger company called Evios or Evios, I never know how to pronounce it. And that company has now taken the reins of Anderson and they're bringing it on to the next level. And they've just released the A3, as I mentioned. Now, I'm not going to go into too much details about the company history. I've overviewed it. But in terms of concerns that you might have about Anderson, they shouldn't be a concern anymore because of this big company that's backing them. Now, for every electric vehicle charging point in this video, we're going to discuss 8 things, and they are as follows: design and aesthetics, power output, smart features, ease of install, which is very important for installers like myself, durability and weather resistance, warranty, price, and finally the USPs and who this product might be best for. So in terms of the Anderson A2 and now A3, what do I think about the design and aesthetics? Well, I must say it's a beautiful charging point. I'd say if you look at all of the charging points on the market today, Anderson A2 has to be one of the most beautiful. And the A3 looks pretty good as well. I think what they've done with the A3 is just simplified and minimalized the A2 slightly in order to offer a more mass market product with less bespoke capabilities, but it still offers different color choices, etc. The A2 is really the Rolls-Royce of EV charging points when it comes to the way it looks. It has customizable color options from the metal or wooden panel on the front to the side panels to make sure that you can choose a charging point that will fit the look of your property. For example, if you've got a beautiful old house with red bricks and wooden oak cladding, you might choose the wooden oak front panel and maybe red sides. If you have a modern, sleek, black property, then you might choose the all black version of the charging point. And you can mix and match according to what fits best with your property. So from a design and aesthetics point of view, it's certainly really up there in terms of what's available on the market today. Now, what about the power output? Well, the Anderson A2 comes in 7.4 or 22 kilowatt versions. 22 kilowatt requires a 3-phase power supply to your home, which a lot of houses don't have, but it makes it suitable for a commercial installation as well, and just allows you to charge your vehicle faster if your vehicle onboard charger has the capability to charge at 22 kilowatts, or indeed 11 kilowatts, which many modern EVs do now allow. But as I said, you will need a 3-phase supply to the property and a 3-phase distribution board, etc. Now, the A3 currently only comes in a single-phase version, which I think is, again, more of a mass market product. But for most people, 7.4 kilowatt is perfectly adequate to charge your electric vehicle overnight, which most people do on the cheap electricity, or indeed have it plugged in during the day to charge up, maybe if you've got solar, for example, and use that solar energy. What about the smart features? Well, the Anderson Connect Plus app does all of the things that you would want an app to do. It allows you to schedule charging, allows you to see your charging sessions, and you can even put your price per kilowatt hour for your electricity in there so that it will tell you how much each charging session costs. Other than that, I don't think there's too many additional features to the app. I must admit it's a little while since I fitted one, so I might not be 100% up to date on all of the latest app features, but it ticks the basic functionality boxes. It is a smart charger, you do have an app, and if you add a certain element to the installation, you can get it to run on excess solar with an additional CT clamp. I think they call it a solar energy pack or something like that. Then you can get that working so that if you've got excess solar, it'll start to charge your car, which is great. What about ease of install? Well, this for me has always been one of the downsides of the Anderson A2, and hopefully they've improved it in the A3, but it has always been a bit tricky to install. Out of the box, it comes with all of these various bits and pieces that you've got to kind of assemble and put together as an installer. You've got to connect the tethered cable up, put all of the parts together, and the compartment where the connections happen is very, very small. So to connect a 6mm armored cable or an EV Ultra cable is very tight, to say the least. So I must admit that it is not high on my list of loved chargers to install, just because of how faffy it is for an installer to get that cable terminated. That being said, they've got a template, it's easy to mount on the wall. It really just is the assembly and the connections that are tricky. The commissioning side of things has always been quite straightforward with the Anderson. I think that's still the case today. So from a commissioning point of view, they're pretty good. How about durability and weather resistance? Well, the Accoya wood fronts and indeed the metal panels that come with the Anderson A2 are all very durable, very weather resistant. We have not had a single charging point that has had any issues over the 5 years that we've been fitting them now, in terms of, oh, it's, you know, faded, the color's faded in the weather, or the wood started to crack or anything like that. So in terms of the durability and weather resistance, they are very, very good. Now, what about the warranty? Well, this is something that's very interesting. Anderson have announced that all units purchased on or after the 14th of May 2024 will have, wait for it, a seven-year warranty. Can you believe it? Now that is unheard of in the EV charging industry, and I think hats off to Anderson that they're able to offer that. Now there are a couple of interesting caveats though, is that because Anderson went into administration in October 2022, any warranties before the company changed hands are no longer valid. So for example, installs that we did pre-2022, which would normally be within the 3-year warranty still, at the moment, unfortunately, we cannot offer warranty support for these now. Now, I have tried with Anderson to question that, and there may be a little bit of wiggle room there, but maybe that's just for us because of who we are, pulling a few strings. But unfortunately, that's the official line on the Anderson website, is that they cannot offer warranty support for any purchases that were made before October the 24th, 2022. But what about the gap in between? So between 2024 and 2022, well, those units, if purchased between the takeover date in October and the latest update to the warranty of 7 years, those units will have a 3-year warranty. So pretty good standard warranty. If you're buying one now, all of that doesn't matter. You will get a 7-year warranty from Anderson for the product, which is amazing. Now, what about the price? Well, the Anderson, being a bespoke premium looking charging point, it does come with a premium price point. The prices start at £1,199 according to the Anderson website, but that is really a starting price, and the more you start to customize things, the more the price can increase. For example, if you want the wooden front plate rather than the metal one, it's an extra £200. But overall, you get what you pay for in this industry, and I think for a fantastic looking charging point with a 7-year warranty, the price is still pretty reasonable for the investment that you're getting in the long term to be able to charge your vehicle and rely on that high quality piece of equipment. Now, there is even a limited edition version with a carbon fiber front, and it looks absolutely stunning. I'm yet to install one of those, but if any of you out there want one, let us know and we'll give you a quote for an install. Obviously, that cost that I've just mentioned is only for the product itself. Installation costs will vary depending on how simple or complicated your install is and what the state of your existing electrics are. And with all of these charging points, we offer them as a business at Artisan Electrics. We'd be happy to give you a quote. There will be a link below to our get a quote process. And we have a really bespoke process where we take all of the details that we need in order to design the perfect EV installation for you. From getting pictures of your consumer unit to getting a video of where the cable might be able to go, we can then provide a bespoke quote that will be very accurate. There are a lot of companies out there just offer standard install prices, and in my experience, there are very few actual standard installs in the real world. So be careful, because you can often get hit with an extra bill when the installer comes out and finds that it's more complicated than they thought, which is why we gather all of that information up front so that we're armed and able to do a proper bespoke quote for each of our customers. So finally, what are the unique selling points of the Anderson A2? Well, I really think the main one is the way that it looks. It is beautiful. The cable is fully hidden because it comes with this tethered cable that hides behind the front plate of the charger. So if you're the kind of person who doesn't like cables lying around, or even just doesn't like to see a cable wrapped around an EV charger, then the Anderson A2 is probably by far the leader in terms of the choice that you might want to make. But also, that 7-year warranty is fantastic and could be an important factor in your buying decision. The other thing is, you may live in a house that is a listed building or has certain important requirements for the looks of whatever is installed on the outside of the property. And again, Anderson A2 with the bespoke and changeable look of the charger makes it an obvious choice. So overall, Anderson A2, great choice in terms of looks and warranty. Installation is a bit faffy, and for installers, I'm sorry, you're just going to have to suck it up because they're not the nicest to install, but they have a lot of good features that make them great for the end user. And so Anderson is one of our top 5 picks for EV charging points here in the UK. What is the next one? Well, number 2, and again, this is alphabetical order, but I will tell you my ultimate preference at the end of the video. Number 2 on the list is the Hypervolt Home 3 Pro. Hypervolt are one of the brands that we've worked with for a long time at Artisan Electrics. We've been installing their products right from when they were almost a prototype, back when they had a little fan for cooling inside. I fitted one on my home and used it for a decent amount of time to charge my Tesla Model 3, and I was very happy with it. But since then, the product has come a long way, and they've recently released the Home 3 Pro, which is the top pick of their lineup in terms of quality, but also price, and I'll explain all of its features now. So in terms of design and aesthetics, I really love the look of the Hypervolt Home 3 Pro. Now, it comes in 3 finishes: space grey, ultra black, or ultra white. and each of those has a high quality finish. They are plastic, but the plastics are high quality, injection molded, made in the UK. In terms of the aesthetics, which is really what we're talking about here, they look really smart. Now they've got a lovely lightning bolt on the front which glows in the dark, and you can change the colors of the LEDs. You can even set it to things like party mode. You can customize the charging point to what you like based on the different LED modes that are there or what kind of mood you're in. But that's not the only thing. So it doesn't come with a screen, and the LED indicators are really what tells you what the charging point is doing. Green if you're charging, blue if you're on standby, red if there's an error, for example, and there are others. So the LEDs are a very simple but effective way to tell you what the state of the charging point is at any moment in time. The Hypervolt Home 3 Pro only comes in tethered options. In fact, all of the Hypervolt lineup do. Very similar to the Anderson, they come with an attached cable, and that attached cable comes in 3 length options: 5 meters, 7.5 meters, or 10 meters. In fact, it's one of the only manufacturers that I know of that offers a 10-meter tethered lead, and that is quite a good selling point when it comes to the situation where you maybe have 2 electric vehicles and you might be parking them slightly further away from the charging point, or if you've just got a tricky location where the charging point needs to be and you've got a bit of a further cable run to get to your EV. The Hypervolt Home 3 Pro comes in a 7 kilowatt version. It does not come in a 3-phase version right now. So if you are looking for a 3-phase charger, that's one thing to bear in mind, that the Hypervolt will not do that. But you can install multiple chargers on one site and they can talk to each other, which is quite cool. What about the smart features? Well, Hypervolt has one of the best apps in my opinion. It has all of the smart capabilities in terms of schedule charging, etc. And they have just rolled out beta testing now for Octopus Intelligent Go integration, which I know a lot of Octopus customers will be really happy about. What that means is that you can link your charge point directly now to the Octopus app, and it will automatically start and stop your charging session based on the cheap rate electricity that happens overnight, which is switched on and off by Octopus. And that means that you can get absolutely rock bottom rates for charging your vehicle, and it all happens automatically in the background. So it's a real big win that Hypervolt have managed to get that integration with Octopus. As I say, it is in beta mode at the moment, but I'm sure it'll be rolling out to mass market very, very soon. The other things that Hypervolt app does are really interesting. It gives you one of the biggest data sets of any app that I have seen. And they have included now integration with Enphase to be able to see if you've got solar, how much your solar is generating on a really granular level. But also you're able to, for example, if you don't have Enphase solar, put a second CT clamp in around your battery system and see what your batteries are doing, see what your solar is doing, and if you're exporting any power, and you can charge in an eco mode that will allow you to make use of any excess solar energy to charge your car without draining your battery. So a lot of cool things in the Hypervolt app. There's way more stuff that I could go into, but it's definitely one of the best apps on the market. Very, very smart, very, very responsive and quick. And when it comes to the commissioning process, which we'll talk about later, that is a big deal as well. Now, when it comes to the smart capabilities as well, one thing to mention is the connectivity via Wi-Fi or via hardwired Ethernet. Now, the Anderson that we spoke about earlier, the AA2, doesn't have a hardwired Ethernet connection, or it didn't the last time I fitted one. I don't know if the A3 will, but the Hypervolt comes with Ethernet as standard, and a lot of customers want that because they want to have a charge point that's constantly connected via high speed to their network, not necessarily via Wi-Fi, which could potentially drop out, etc. That being said, the Wi-Fi is super fast on the Hypervolt and it's very quick to set up. If you've got good Wi-Fi signal, then you should be fine. The other thing that Hypervolt has, which is quite interesting, is Alexa integration, which is quite useful if you are a user of said smart voice control app system. You can use various commands to turn on or off the charging point, set schedules, etc. So if you want to go in deep with that, you certainly can do, to use those capabilities to the full. What about ease of install though? Because I know all of the installers that are watching this are going to want to know that. Well, Hypervolt is one of the easiest and quickest charge points to install. full stop. And I have actually had an input on the installation process because I'm quite brutal with manufacturers when I speak to them about things that they could improve. Some, they do improve them and they take on board my feedback. Others, they just ignore it. Hypervolt are one of the ones that have taken on all of my feedback. So for example, captive screws was one thing that I requested because I found that when you put the front cover on, the loose screws sometimes could fall out into the gravel driveway and disappear. So they've implemented captive screws, which I love. And in terms of the whole installation process, from unboxing the unit right the way to mounting it and connecting everything up, it is just so easy. And that applies to the commissioning process too. Probably the quickest and easiest commissioning process that there is for any charging point on the market. So a big tick for installers there. And obviously, if it's easier for an installer, it's going to be better for the customer because longer installation time is going to mean more installation cost, right? So if a charge point is quicker and easier to install, the installer can allow less time to fit it, which is going to cost the end user less. Now, when it comes to durability and weather resistance, the Hypervolt shines because it has an IP66 rating, but also an IK10 rating. Now, what do those figures mean? Well, the IP rating stands for ingress protection, and it basically means how much water and dust can you blast at it before they get in. IP66 basically means that you can spray it with high-powered water jets, you can throw fine powder all over it and it's not going to penetrate the inside of the unit. And I have physically put that to the test, and I'll leave a link in the description below where you can watch that video. But the other thing is the IK10 rating, which is impact rating. What that means is, you know, if you bump your car into it or something hits into it, is it going to break or not? And again, I put that to the test and it was solid. So from a durability, weatherproof point of view, it is super, super solid. But it's also very UV stable, 95% UV stability, which means that the color's not going to fade over time. So a massive tick in the durability, weatherproof and build quality box. Now, what about warranty? Well, it comes with a standard 3-year warranty, which is fairly normal. You can pay extra for an extended warranty of up to 5 years, so might be worth doing. However, I must say we've had very few warranty callbacks with Hypervolt units, so that's a good sign that they're built well, and hopefully you're not going to need to call on that warranty anytime soon. Now, what about the price? Well, Hypervolt is a really good mid-range charger. It's not cheap by any means, but it's not on the level of the Anderson. It's really good kind of mid-range for most people's budgets. If you want something quality that's not going to break the bank, but it's going to last a long time and have all of those smart features, Hypervolt is a good all-rounder there. So what are the Hypervolt Home 3 Pro's USPs? Well, as I said, it works with Octopus Intelligent Go now. It also works with OVO Tariff 2. So the smart tariff integration, definitely a unique selling point. The fact that it is so weather resistant and solid is another unique selling point. The fact that it looks great and customizable with different colors and the LED front is also a nice feature. But for me, the thing that sells it the most is the fact that they've got amazing customer service and technical support. Like whenever you phone them, you get through to them straight away. If you've got any issues in the commissioning process, for example, as an installer, which sometimes happens, but it is in general really quick and easy to install too. So that is the Hypervolt Home 3 Pro. And I'm going to be doing a more in-depth deep dive video on some of the new features like the Octopus integration and the Enphase integration. So stay tuned, make sure you like and subscribe if you want to see that video soon. Our next charging point on the list is the MyEnergi Zappi. Now, if you've been following the channel for a while, you will know that we have fitted hundreds of these. Again, it was one of my early units that I started to install, and you'll see babyface Jordan on the channel fitting MyEnergi Zappis from maybe 4 years ago or more. Why did I choose the Zappi as a go-to charger for our list of installs for our customers? Well, one of the reasons was always that it shone in terms of solar integration. MyEnergi had an eco-smart charger, as they called it, that would integrate with an existing solar PV system to read how much the solar is generating, and if you're exporting any power, it would use that power to charge your car basically on free sunshine. One really solid USP that MyEnergi has had for quite a while is their ecosystem, and actually the products that work together, like the Eddy hot water solar diverter, and now the MyEnergi Libby battery storage system as well. All of these devices work together within the app to manage your energy, and they do a really good job of it. However, some of those features now aren't so unique, as we'll talk about later in this section of the video. So in terms of the design and aesthetics of the MyEnergi Zappi charger, what are my thoughts? Well, it looks okay, you know. Some people do say it looks a little bit like a toilet seat. I'll leave you to debate that in the comments below, but it doesn't look ugly. I don't think it looks beautiful either. It's, you know, somewhere in the meh kind of sentiment for me when it comes to the way that it looks. The internals are quite nice because there's a lot of space. I'll talk about that a bit more when it comes to ease of installation. But overall, design and aesthetics wise, it depends on your taste. It comes in black or white options, but overall nothing major to shout about when it comes to design and aesthetics. What about the power output? Well, this is where the Zappi shines because it does come in 7 kilowatt or 22 kilowatt versions, which means that you can use it on a 3-phase supply if you've got one. And that's great because some people do want to be able to charge their vehicles faster. So that's a big tick for MyEnergi there. In terms of the smart features, it has all of the usual stuff, Wi-Fi or Ethernet connectivity. The MyEnergi app is great. It's very visual, it's very easy to use. They are working on Octopus integration. I'm not sure whether it's live yet or not, but if it's not, then it will be very soon. So the fact that it will work with Octopus Intelligent Go to enable you to charge your vehicle during the cheap electricity rates, if your vehicle is not one that will work directly with Octopus via the vehicle API. One of the nice things about the MyEnergi app is that you can see your solar as a separate device, how much it's generating. You can see your batteries if they're on there. You can see your solar diverter and your EV charger. And you can even prioritize different devices depending on which one you want to use your solar energy first, which is a nice feature. And I still think that in terms of solar integration, MyEnergi has the best ecosystem so far on the market. Others may be catching up, but I don't know if they're quite there yet in terms of being able to see every single device and actually manage those devices as well within the app. Now, what about ease of install? Well, for ease of install, I must give it a big thumbs up. The space inside the charger is really nice. It enables neat cable management, although we have seen a lot of shockingly bad installs done by cowboys. But when we install them, we find there's plenty of space to manage the cables, loop them neatly, connect them into the push-fit terminals, and the data cabling side of things as well. So nice and easy to install. They have a template to mount it onto the wall, which is a nice cardboard template to show you where the fixing points are. You can do rear entry or bottom entry with a charging point, so different options depending on where you're bringing your cable from. And overall, ease of install is good. I will say the commissioning process is a little bit faffy. You've got this screen with menus and you have to go through the menus and change all of these different things, whereas a lot of manufacturers now are going to just an app-based commissioning process, which is a lot easier. So I would say it's a little bit behind the times in terms of the commissioning process, but maybe they'll be improving that soon, who knows. Durability and weather resistance is another important factor to consider. Now, it is IP65 rated, which means again it's suitable for outside in most weathers. Maybe you just can't spray it with a jet wash. It is IK10 rated as well, which I didn't realize until I was doing the research for this video. So again, you know, if you bump your car into it or something, or you accidentally hit it with a sledgehammer, it should be okay. However, you know, caveat, I cannot guarantee that. The only thing I want to say about the MyEnergi charger when it comes to build quality in general is that we have experienced a lot of warranty callbacks on these. We are warranty installers for MyEnergi, and we get probably 2 or 3 warranty claims coming through every day for our area. Now that feels like a lot to me. However, I know that they are one of the manufacturers with the most live units out there in the field. So maybe psychologically that's just like the numbers are just different because they're fitting way more chargers. I don't know. However, a lot of the installs that we're seeing are not done to the highest standard anyway. There's a lot of cowboys out there who are chucking these chargers in for next to nothing and cutting corners, which will obviously affect the durability and lifetime of the installation. But things like circuit board failures, internal RCD failures and stuff like that are fairly common on this. I know MyEnergi are working to try and improve the quality, but so far, of all the chargers that we fit, I say that's probably the one that I have the biggest concerns about in terms of build quality, just because of the number of warranty callbacks that we have had. However, that being said, they do have a good warranty. It's standard 3 years, but you can extend it to 5 years as well for an extra fee. So that's something to bear in mind. And it might be worth paying for that extended warranty, just knowing that there are some issues with units. However, a lot of them we see after only a few months rather than a few years. So I'd say that maybe, you know, it's a manufacturing issue rather than a long-term durability issue. And maybe we're just seeing a few batches of products that haven't been manufactured to the best of standards. When it comes to price, the MyEnergi Zappi is up there with the Hypervolt, similar kind of pricing, not the cheapest, but not the most expensive either. A good, solid, reasonably priced charging point for the quality. What about its unique selling points? I'd say probably its biggest selling point is still the ecosystem and the fact that it works so well with renewable energy products. The other thing that's quite good about it is UK manufacturing, which a lot of people like. I'm a little bit torn about the whole UK manufacturing thing though, to be honest, because I feel like it's all very well doing UK manufacturing, but still the quality has to be top. And I do see some manufacturers that are manufacturing in China, but the quality is absolutely bulletproof, versus manufacturing in the UK and not having such high quality. It's one of those things that I'm a little bit torn about. Of course, from an eco credentials point of view, if anything's made locally, it's better because there's less traveling involved, less carbon footprint involved in the manufacturing process, which is important if you're buying an eco-friendly product. But it's just something to think about. You may find that you want to support UK businesses more. I think that's commendable, in which case MyEnergi is one that manufactures their products in the UK, although manufacturing is a very loose term. Basically, they assemble it in the UK, but a lot of the parts do come from different parts of the world as well. Number 4 on our list is the Simpson & Partners charging point. Now, Simpson & Partners, of all of the brands that we're talking about today, are probably one of the ones that have been around the least amount of time. The person who started Anderson EV left and started his own company called Simpson & Partners, and you can see a lot of similarity in the ethos between the two companies. For example, the customizability, the build quality of the products have a little bit of harmony between them. So David Simpson and his wife Mandy, they founded Anderson, then for whatever reason they decided to part ways with Anderson and start Simpson & Partners. After they started Simpson & Partners was when Anderson had its troubles. But as I said, that has kind of, you know, all passed and is water under the bridge now. Simpson & Partners has started up, British-based manufacturing, bespoke design and customizability, very similar to the Anderson, but a different look. And you can see what I mean when you see the picture of the unit. Now, it's quite small and compact, unlike the Anderson, which is quite big. The cable is not hidden, but it does come with tethered or untethered options. So if you don't want to see a cable, you can go with untethered and keep the cable in your boot, for example. One of the things that's really nice about it is the aesthetics. You can choose different wood and metal finishes. There's a huge selection of different colors that you can choose from. And the idea is very similar to the Anderson, that you can match it with the look of your home to make something that really looks like it was designed to be there. So big tick from the design and aesthetics point of view. In terms of the power output, the Simpson & Partners does come in 7.4 or 22 kilowatt charging options, so single phase or 3-phase if you have that option at your home. The smart features include solar integration. They have a great app which allows you to do all of the usual stuff, scheduling, etc. I don't think they've got integration with Octopus yet, but I'm sure it'll be coming at some point down the line. All these companies seem to be slowly catching up and getting that integration because it's so important for people nowadays. But if you've got a car that can connect directly to Octopus Intelligent Go, then that's not such a big deal anyway. The other nice thing about the app with Simpson & Partners is you get quite a good overview of your home energy and how much you're using. Via a CT clamp that's connected to the charge point, you can see your overall energy use in the home and how much of that is going to charge your car. And as I said, you can integrate it with solar as well. Now, what about ease of install? Well, it is compact, so it's a little bit tight in terms of the terminals and everything, but it's quite well designed inside, and I'd say that it's fairly easy to install. very nice and easy to mount up on the wall. The commissioning process, fairly straightforward, although we have had a few teething problems with it. And when you do phone the customer service line, they do take quite a while to answer often. So that's maybe a little downside for the Simpson & Partners, is that they're probably a little bit overstretched in terms of their tech support or something like that. But overall, for installers, as I say, it's pretty good. The installation process is not too difficult or complicated, and the support is there. Now, one thing to note about charging points that claim to work with Octopus, you need to dig a little bit deeper into what they really mean when they say that. Because I've just noticed on the Simpson & Partners website that it says works with Octopus smart tariffs, and you think, oh great, it's got Octopus Intelligent Go integration, but it doesn't. And when you click on the find out more thing, it just basically links you to, if your vehicle is compatible with Octopus Intelligent Go, then this charge point will work. But the charge point itself is not going to talk to Octopus tariffs at all yet, until they've got that Kraken integration directly with the charge point. And that's the difference. So for brands who claim to work with Octopus, just be careful and make sure you do research to see if the charging point itself will talk to the Octopus Intelligent Go tariff or not. Because if your vehicle doesn't, which a lot of vehicles don't currently work directly with Octopus, then unless your charging point does, you won't be able to have that automatic smart tariff integration. Now, in terms of the durability and weatherproofness of this charging point, it is slightly less than the others that we've discussed so far. It has an IP54 rating, which means that it can withstand limited dust and it can withstand water drops, but you should not put it in a place where it's going to be constantly barraged by water, i.e. maybe somewhere where you might jet wash it by mistake. So something to consider. I wouldn't be worried about fitting it in most places outside, and let's be honest, dust is not really a big issue in a lot of places. So unless there's a specific reason why the place where you're installing it is going to have those kind of issues, it's pretty suitable for most locations, but something to bear in mind. What about the warranty? Well, it comes with a 3-year warranty as standard. I cannot see any way that you can extend that currently. So that is the warranty that you're going to get. Fairly standard, nothing really to shout about. Now, I must say we have had one unit that's failed so far. We've maybe installed about 10 of these. I don't think we've installed a ton. So how representative that is of the overall failure rate of the product, I'm not sure, but it's something to bear in mind. Now, what about the price? Well, if you look on the lovely Simpson & Partners configurator, you can see very similar to the Anderson, you can choose different finishes, and obviously the quality of the finish is going to affect the price. They start from £649 including VAT, which is the basic model. Then they step up to £775 for the Plus model, and then the 3-phase model, £885. But then you've got 2 choices of tethered cables depending on what length you need. That will add more to the cost, and other features like the energy manager, etc. All of these can add to the cost. So you could be easily looking at about £1,000 for this charger. So they're not too much less than the Anderson, still a little bit more reasonable on price, but again, you get what you pay for. It's a beautiful, bespoke, high quality charger. It is what it is. So what are the unique selling points of the Simpson & Partners unit? Well, I think number one, it has to be the customizability of the unit. As I said, changing the different colors and finishes is really, really nice. And a lot of people go for the product because of its aesthetics, because it does look beautiful. Other than that, all of the other stuff, I'll be honest, is pretty bog standard. There's nothing that really stands out too much from this particular charger, other than the fact that it is manufactured in the UK, which is an important point for some people. So is this charger for you? Well, we'll discuss that at the end of the video and I'll give you my honest thoughts. Fifth and final on the list in alphabetical order is the Tesla wall connector. Now, Tesla have an interesting history when it comes to charging points, and I have been very mixed in my reviews of them over the years. You'll find me saying one minute that this is the worst EV charger in the world, and then another minute that it is a game changer. And I've given my brutally honest thoughts about this charger in multiple videos across the YouTube channel over the years. But the Gen 3 charger is the current version that we install now for customers. Gen 2 is a thing of the past. And the Gen 3 is a viable option for people, especially if they're getting a Tesla vehicle. In terms of the design and aesthetics of the charger, it looks lovely. It reminds me of the old iPod back in the day with the white sort of plastic glass style finish. I personally love the look of the body itself, but I do think that when you wrap the cable around it, unless you wrap the cable really neatly, it kind of reduces the look of the charging point. And I'm a bit OCD about how I wrap the cables around on these particular units when we leave them with customers. But overall, design-wise, it fits well with the whole Tesla look. It looks smart and modern and sleek. It's quite compact and it does the job. In terms of the power output, the Tesla Gen 3 wall connector is available in 7 or 22 kilowatt versions, which means that if you do have a three-phase supply at your property and a Tesla vehicle that's capable of charging at three-phase AC, whether it be 11 kilowatt or 22 kilowatt, you've got that capability should you so wish. In terms of the smart features of this charge point, it's fairly evident that it works inside the Tesla app and it kind of just talks directly to the car. You can add it into the app now, but be warned, you will need to make sure you use a Tesla approved installer to do that. And it means that you can see the charger on your little house map when you go into your Tesla app. In terms of scheduling and things like that, it kind of tends to work with the car, but obviously Tesla Wall Connector will work with other non-Tesla vehicles as well. You just need to enable that within the app. So that's something that you can then use to schedule those charge sessions within the Tesla app, should you so wish. Now, when it comes to ease of install, this is my biggest bugbear with the Tesla Wall Connector, is that it doesn't have built into it a lot of the safety features that all of the other charge points that we've discussed today have built in, namely pen fault protection. Now, if you're a customer and you don't know what that is, I will briefly explain. Basically, in the UK, we have a protective earth neutral supply for most properties. What that means is the neutral and earth wires are combined within the supply cable that comes from your distribution network operator to your house. Only then within the house are they split out. And there's an issue where old cables, which are quite common in the UK, can have a loss of the pen conductor, and the outer case of the car and any other exposed metalwork on the outside of your house could come live under fault conditions and potentially give someone an electric shock. So regulations have implemented for quite a while now the need to install some kind of device which protects against these faults. Even though they're rare, we have to protect against them. And all of the charge points that I've mentioned thus far in the video have these built in to the charging point. We call it pen fault protection or pen loss protection. The Tesla Gen 3 is the only one that doesn't have that built in, which means that you will need to install a separate device called a pen fault protection device. Some brands such as Mat-E or Garrow, other brands exist, make these devices, and they're basically like a small consumer unit with a contactor and relay in that measures the voltage on the system, and if the voltage goes outside of certain norms, it assumes that a pen fault has occurred and it will cut off the power supply, the live, neutral and earth, to the charging point in an event of such a fault. That is really important, and we've seen quite a few DIY installs or installs done by non-approved electricians who don't really understand these regs. They just go and chuck it in on a normal circuit breaker or RCBO, and it doesn't have that protection, and it could be very dangerous. So make sure you use a Tesla approved installer if you're getting one of these. I know you can just buy them off the Tesla website, which frustrates me, and I have talked to Tesla about this. I don't think it's fair that they just allow customers to buy these along with their vehicles, because they don't really warn people enough about the potential safety issues of doing a DIY install. However, I shall avoid ranting further and just say that although it's a beautiful looking charger and it does most of the things that you might want to do, there are a few safety features lacking, and you just need to be careful. Don't just look at the price tag, look at what else you might need to install as part of a Tesla Wall Connector installation. So that's sort of me rabbiting on a bit about the trickiness of the install, but other than that, I mean, it's fairly easy to actually fit on the wall and connect the cable into. You know, it's pretty easy, and the commissioning side of things, although it could be improved, I think Tesla's a software company, they should definitely improve on the commissioning of multiple different products that they have produced. It's not the worst. There are worse out there, so it's fairly easy to install and commission. Now, in terms of durability and weather resistance, is a solid charger. It's IP55 rated, so fairly standard, not the highest, not the lowest, but it's designed for indoor or outdoor use. It comes with a standard 7.3 meter length tethered cable, and one of the things I like about the tethered cable is it's quite thin and lightweight, so that's nice. The other nice thing I like about it is that it's got the button on the end of the plug where you can press it and it will automatically open the flap on your Tesla, which is quite cool. It is just a bit of a gimmick, but it's a nice to have kind of thing if you've got a Tesla. Now, what about warranty? Well, it has a 4-year or 48-month warranty, which is a little bit unusual. It does specify for personal use only, so I guess if you're installing it for a business, then you won't qualify for that warranty. I'm not quite sure why, whether it's just to do with how much it might be used. If you're using it all day, every day for a business, I'm guessing it's going to take more of a battering, and therefore they might not honour that 48-month warranty, but a good solid warranty, I would say. Now, what about the price? Well, it's amazingly cheap, this charger. It's only £475 according to the Tesla website. But remember what I said earlier about the fact that it doesn't include a lot of the things inside it that the others do. So of course it's going to be cheaper, but you're going to have to pay extra for those devices to be installed outside of the charging point. So something to bear in mind is that although it looks cheap on the outside, you will pay more for installation than you might do for one of these other brands of charging points. Now, Tesla have recently released a dynamic power meter as well, which is something that was lacking and that a lot of the other charging points have. Basically what it does is allows you to connect a CT or current transducer transformer around the main tail that goes into your property to monitor how much power your house is using, and then in the event that your house is using 100 amps, for example, and your main fuse is 100 amps, it will ramp down the charger to stop you from blowing up the main fuse. That's something that's pretty standard in most charge point brands, but that has been lacking with Tesla. Now it's available, however, again, it's an additional device at additional cost that will be more complicated to install and therefore will increase your installation costs. So something to bear in mind. And of course, your installer can advise you on whether you need one of those or not, depending on what size your main fuse is and how much heavy loads you've got going on in your property. So what are the Tesla wall connectors USPs? Well, really the button is one of them, and the fact that it is made by Tesla. So most people who are getting a Tesla wall connector, it's going to be because they've got a Tesla or are getting a Tesla, and it just makes sense to have everything in the one app. That is nice. It does look good as well. It is cheap, but again, a little bit deceptive there, so I wouldn't really count that as a USP. Mainly if you're a Tesla owner or you're getting a Tesla wall connector could be a good option, especially if you're lazy and you want to press that button to open the flap. So what are my overall thoughts about these 5 electric vehicle charging points? Well, I must say that these are all on the premium end, as you might have seen, and that's because at Artisan we only fit premium products that do have a robust warranty, that have passed our quality assurance tests, even though, as you'll have seen from my comments, some of them are better quality than others. They still all meet the high benchmark that we set for products that we offer to our customers. However, they all have subtle differences, which is why we have all of these 5 in our lineup, because let's face it, every customer is different and every install is different. There's not really any such thing as a standard install. So usually how it works is we will recommend to a customer the charging point that we think is most suitable for them, depending on the property, the existing electrical installation, the vehicle they're getting, and any other factors that are important to our customer. But that being said, you might already have your preference in your mind, so let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. For me, I'll go through them this way. The Anderson and Simpson and Partners are really for people who want something that looks beautiful and that can be customizable and bespoke to fit with the aesthetics of the house. So if it's a historical property where aesthetics are important, or even a modern property where it's very specific design is important, then I would say that the Anderson is probably the top pick in terms of the look, especially if you don't want to see the cable, but the Simpson & Partners is a close second in terms of the fact that it does look beautiful and it's easily customizable with all the different choices. The Hypervolt Home 3 Pro for me really is the best all-rounder. It does look great, It is probably the best in terms of the build quality and functionality, and it kind of ticks all the boxes for most people, unless the extra little bit of aesthetics are really, really important to you. The MyEnergi Zappi is good if you do already have a MyEnergi ecosystem. Maybe you've got an Eddy or a Libby battery, or if you want to see a bit more information about your existing solar install, then the MyEnergi Zappi can be a good option for you. The Tesla wall connector, really, if you're a Tesla owner, it might make sense for you to go down the Tesla wall connector route. So those are my 5 top chargers. Now, which is my number one? Which would I recommend over all of them to my customers? And I've got to say, it's the Hypervolt Home 3 Pro. For most people, I'd say 90% of our customers, we recommend the Hypervolt now, just because it ticks most of the boxes. It's reliable, it looks great, it works great, the backup support is there, it is a great all-rounder. So that is my top pick out of these 5. But that being said, you are unique, and what works best for you is what's most important. So hopefully this video has armed you with a bit more information, and you feel a bit more confident now on which charger you might want to choose. But if you do want some more advice and you want us to give you a quote for installing your EV charger, there's a link below, as I said, to our bespoke customer journey, where we'll gather a few bits of information from you. It takes about 10 minutes to go through the process, but it enables us to really make the right recommendation for you and provide you with an accurate quote in order to get you the best possible installation for your electric vehicle charging point. Either way, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, make sure to grab a cup of tea and settle in for these 2 videos up here, which YouTube thinks you will enjoy.